Welcome on stage, Thomas from diva-e.
Hello, everyone. I'm still a bit flashed from the previous talk, so sorry for killing the tension with boring field experience here. But let's go ahead. So, a small word about me. From profession, I'm a quality engineer. And actually, my job is breaking things so we can fix them in a better way. This is also gives a bit of background about what I'm talking about here, breaking things. Many of us already are using AEM as a cloud service, and many are still migrating. So I think it's a good time to share some experience about cloud migration and also some bad things that can happen and eat away your time. So I've got 2 blocks. At first, I'll present how we are organizing our cloud migration teams, what's working in our context, and then I'll present some not so obvious learnings. So what's working for us and our cloud migration projects? Our context usually is that we move from AEM on-prem, usually the latest version, to the cloud service. So no fancy other content management systems playing a role here. Usually the ongoing project must run in parallel and the existing team is busy and can't do it together with what they else have to do. To pull this off, we usually create 2 independent teams. One team that takes care of the ongoing project and one team that's responsible for the cloud migration. If you create 2 teams, you have to pay attention to knowledge exchange. So for example, the cloud migration project, the cloud migration team needs knowledge about the actual project. And when you're finishing your cloud migration, you need to transfer some knowledge of the migration itself back to the ongoing running team. So it's a good idea to create the team from the existing team and put a few new people on board. The advantage of having 2 teams is that you're avoiding a lot of priority discussions. So if there's some business pressure, it does not impact the migration team. And it's a very good way to keep your timeline. It also helps to reduce the mental load of each of the teams because you don't have to think about migration and you don't have to think about the current project. There's also very often the case that the teams are working in a different way. For example, the migration team has a really different style of refinement, and it probably also needs less organizational structure. For example, it doesn't have frequent release cycles. On a code level, we start practically by creating parallel branches. This looks a lot like Git flow or something like that, but you can apply the pattern for practically all branching models. So if you have like 2 branches, one for the ongoing development and one where the release candidate or the release sits, we split them both off to feature branches and do the whole migration development on these. This has a big advantage because you can use your existing CI pipelines. For example, if you have pipelines that run on the feature branches, you can just reuse them and they work as before. Also, you probably have a dev process established with code reviews and other things that are based on having feature branches. You can just keep it and use the experience that the team has. Once you're done with the migration, you merge both of these to the previous branches and you just did what you did before. So there's no big change usually. When you're doing the cloud migration, you need to take care that you don't build a large change set, because if you have an ongoing project and a migration project, this will go in different directions, definitely. So change sets can really be from hell if you don't take care of them from beginning. So what helps a lot is that you perform any structural changes, like moving directories around before the branching, so you have a similar structure. Also, you should merge from the 6.5 development branch regularly to the feature branch where the migration is done. It's best to do this automatically by CI, but of course you can have your own workflow. For example, you could do it with every release or once a week, whatever you think is comfortable for you. And you should start early to gain experience, because depending on your experience on Git, you still may get a lot of changes. So you may to do it a few times to get it working in a way that's comfortable for you. Also, you have two teams. They are working practically on the same code base, even if it goes separate for a few months. You can use a lot of synergies. So both teams should talk about upcoming change. So, for example, if you know there's the cloud migration coming, there may be stories that shouldn't be done on the 6.5. Think about assets. And also, if you know there are some areas that will receive in the next months a heavy code refactoring, you don't want to do the cloud migration for this code and then do it again. So if you talk to each other and move around some activities, that can bring in a lot of synergies. What we also love to do is that when during cloud migration we find bugs, and we find a lot of bugs during that, we hand them over to the legacy team, so we don't care about these in the migration team. And it's then in the hands of the legacy team to decide if they accept them or if they fix them. Cloud migration always is a good chance for a cleanup. So consider preparations on the client side. Deleting content is always a good idea. No content, no work. Very easy. Also remove old code. You may have deprecated components not in use. You may have that script that once imported from WordPress. You have a code for some one-time import that never got run twice. All kind of things, just get rid of it. You have version control in case you need it again in like 5 years or something. Let's go on to the learnings. Anyone have seen that? Installing mutable content failed? I can't see hands. I can see hands. I can see quite some hands. Okay. So what happened here? It always worked. The installation always succeeded, but then suddenly it doesn't. So downloading the logs is not helpful either. And what's really obvious is that the duration skyrockets. You see here usually 30 minutes. Now it's more than double of this. The cause that I've seen in a few projects is that you have overly wide package definitions. So the Cloud Manager pipelines work with the existing content when installing the packages. I don't know exactly what happens. My assumption is like CRXDE, when you install a package, you get a backup, you can restore it, whatever. I don't know the details, but overwriting existing content takes time. So when the package definitions are wide, it will take more time. In the best case, you're just wasting pipeline time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. If it succeeds, it's okay, it's just time. But in the worst case, it fails, and you may have some deleted content that may be okay, even intentional, but it can happen. So to get into more detail here, in this example, we had some demo data installed in some directory structure. And then we had some backend service importing data, a lot of data. And whenever that demo content was installed, we had a few 50,000 nodes, whatever, in there, and it increased the duration of the pipeline to long. To get rid of that, you need to review the packages and narrow the filters. Also, if you're moving from some very old code base to cloud, consider using repo init. So if you have packages that only create structural nodes and not provide actual content, repo init may be the better way to create these. Suppressing code warnings. Who's done that? Oh, amazing. Only a few. That's good. Those that raised their hands, maybe the others don't know, it's possible to actually suppress the static code warnings shown by the pipeline. And that's really cool because it works like a charm. They are gone. And it works like a charm until it doesn't, so don't do it. So what happened for us? We knew the code quite well. We had the code running since AEM 6.3, whatever, and it worked even for months in AEM as a cloud service. We did a very bad thing. We implemented a product interface. So then AEM 2025.2 decided that overriding the rule was not okay. This was actually the update that upgraded the SonarQube version, and it also changed the rule set. Well, so we finally had to refactor the code. So what is your solution approach here? Well, these findings are not just a hint for smells. They need to be resolved. It may be fine as a short-term solution to get things running or deploy things to suppress them, but at the end, it's a technical debt and a risk to the migration project. So check your options. A rule of thumb here may be if all customers do that, will Adobe have a problem? Also, you have heard a few days ago, Adobe is more opinionated about what we do. So this is expressing the opinion. Felix health checks. We heard them also a few times, this adaptTo. They are quite cool. Felix health checks has many out-of-the-box checks available. If you don't know, you should take a look. One that's very useful is the DsComponentsChecks that allows to check if OSGI components are not only deployed but running. So they not only validate that AEM is running, but also that your application is running. This is done before the system is declared ready and the outside world can connect. And it's super important to have these because if you don't have, you risk poisoning of your dispatcher cache. So this can happen when some HTML pages get rendered and not all components are running. Then you get a page with some components missing and practically it's broken. When such a page gets stored in dispatcher, you have a problem. This may only happen for a few seconds for each new publisher container that gets started, but I've seen it happen in production a few times, and that's no fun. So the health checks, yes, use them, as said before. But the problem here is, locally, if you break them, there's no effect. You don't see them. Of course, you can go to System Console and check for them, but who does? So your code refactorings may miss them, and especially if you are on a migration project, there may be more refactorings than usually. Also, if you have a missing configuration, this may cause components to not start up, with that failing the health check. So also, again, during cloud migration, it can happen that the configurations are not yet available on the higher environments, and then on your first stage deployment, it won't work. So the solution approach here is, well, use the health checks and also configure a logging health check monitor. This will write all changes to the health checks to your log files, and if you're looking at these, you may see them locally. Also, when deployments fail, think, hey, maybe the health checks are not okay, because you don't always have a transparency about that. Also, take care of configuration for higher environments, even if it's just creating a ticket so that you don't forget. Also, if you're using the WSIM.io content package Maven plugin with the latest version, After deploying a package, it also polls the health checks. Thanks, Stefan, for adding that recently. So you actually have a chance to see that you locally broke your health checks. Health checks become even more fun when you combine them with some other things like environment variables in OSGI configurations. So probably all of you that are running on cloud have used that. OSGI configurations can read variables from environment variables, and you can deploy them, the variables independent from the application, or have different ones for each environment. That's pretty cool. But missing configuration values can cause health checks to fail. So what can go wrong here? Well, that's pretty obvious. Of course, you can not set them for some environment, and it may not start if a health check fails. But we're not talking about forgetting things. We're talking about cloud service, and things become more interesting. So Cloud Manager secretly starts up environments and then omits some of the environment variables. For example, all that are secret. Which is actually a very good thing, because if Cloud Manager decides to spin up an environment that's not an official one, you don't want that system to talk to some production APIs. So how does your system behave when a certain configuration is not set? Does it retry? How often does it retry? So what happens to the health checks? And do you actually know what happens? Probably a good question. So when do such secret starts happen? Secret in the sense of you don't have the logs. New product versions, for example, the Cloud Manager will create a new environment and then check if it works, and if it's not working, your product upgrade fails. So what is considered not working? For sure, health check failures. So if your services are not working and the health checks are failing, that may be the cause here. Also, increased log volume seems to be an indicator when something fails. And if you're logging a lot when your service can't connect, that may also cause a failure, even if you don't use it for a health check. So, solution approach, yeah, use the environment variables. They are helpful. Adobe also has some guidance when to use them. But also ensure a defined system behavior when the secrets are missing, because it's a valid use case that these are missing in the cloud. That's it. Thank you for your attention. If you later decide to download the presentation, I added a lot of links and more links and some configuration code snippets that you can use to get an understanding of what's happening under the hood. Thanks.
Thank you. That was a lot of really helpful information. You have a few questions and also a lot of discussion going on in the Q&A. So everyone, please also head straight there. So first one, and a very interesting one. Do you have any advanced lesson or a unique challenge that you faced while migrating that isn't really commonly discussed?
Well, I think the biggest challenges are when you have product features that got removed. Like if you have a project that is using reverse replication, you need to think about how to solve it. Also, if you have a really extensive use of binary processing on AEM, that's not possible anymore. No image magic anymore. So some areas you really have to rewrite and find a new approach.
Is this always feasible, or?
Yeah. Well, if you want to migrate to cloud, it is feasible always, but you just need to have an understanding what's possible in a cloud migration, what technologies are supported, and then plan it properly.
Perfect. You talked about merging new features into a migration branch. Which team would you say is responsible for that task?
I would say the migration team, because they should understand what code is coming. But very often this is a collaboration. So if team one changed something, the other doesn't understand what and why, you immediately have a discussion. Two teams doesn't prevent communication.
Yeah, so that's it. Thank you again for the great session.
Thank you.
And